Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion, Plays of Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. We essentially destroyed our last run by taking one too many one makes you larger pills. Hey, the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you might not be right for some. 86L0YKY7. DPS is fine. 12 rate of fire, 4 damage. Above 0 luck. Speed could be worse. And then, I mean, the D10 is just horrendous. Is this a D? I don't even. Yeah, it's the D10 because we always call it the Dio. It's horrible. It's a terrible item. It has no, like, it's the rare item where both its Zane potential and its, like, actual real-world usefulness equate to approximately 0. I hate it. And it's honestly like a plight on the other well-meaning dice in the game. I'm not trying to insult it too much, but I had to let you know how I really feel about the item, which is that I'm not a big fan. Please stop! Okay, we're out of that heck hole. I think just in general, we probably shouldn't be re-rolling. Does it only re-roll in the enemies that are like of the caliber of this floor? I don't know, but it sucks. It's just not good. Look, I know I've talked about it a lot, but I haven't really gotten my true feelings out about this item. Okay. I'm going too far. You'll have to forgive me, I've had some kombucha today, so I'm a little unwieldy. That's a joke. Kombucha is, I don't believe is literally non-alcoholic, like medically non-alcoholic, but it's functionally a non-alcoholic probiotic beverage. Many out there gonna hear that sentence, they're gonna say it's snake oil. I don't know, you might be right. Here's the thing, okay? I'm just gonna level with you. I'm gonna say something a little gross. It's not like super, it's like PG-13 gross. It's not truly disgusting, but sometimes, and a lot of other guys will relate to this, get a little flatulence. That's right, farted up a little bit. My wife, you know, to her credit, she doesn't say put a cork in that thing, I'm done. She says maybe there's something we can do. We could try some kombucha or something like that. But I gotta be honest, after drinking the kombucha, I enjoyed the taste. I did. It's like a... is it the same kind of like a mouthfeel? I guess we'll probably take it. As like a lager or something like that, but it's got a nice little, you know, fruity flavor to it as well. Kind of like a mellow tea. And then I look it up on Google and I type in kombucha flatulence, and then I realize all the articles are saying it actually makes you even more flatulent. So I think I may have just, you know, sealed my own fate with regards to that, because now I can't stop drinking this stuff. At only $7.50 a bottle, you know, the deal's too good to pass up. But it might be making my problem worse. So I guess I could hope that it gives me a more pleasant aroma when flatulence occurs. That's really what I'm thinking right now is probably my best bet here, but I don't know. I feel like I have bad gut health. I don't know what gut health means, but I think that I do not have good gut health. I think there was probably a time where I did, and then I went to college, and you're throwing all sorts of, you know, universal solvents into your gastrointestinal tract, and then following that up with, oh my lord, you know, hamburger with 14 buns from McDonald's, and, you know, combine that with now the coffee, and I live a better lifestyle now than I did when I was in college, as you might expect, but, no! I actually got hit like 6 times on this fight. That's an embarrassment. Or is it a genius play for me to improve my... This is weird. My damage went down, my rate of fire increased? That's not like a normal function of the Ankh. I'm thinking like we had something weirdly special as Eden, like a multiplier or something? I don't know, dude. Weird situation. Anyway, we have no business dying here. Maybe it is a function of the Ankh that I've just never noticed before. You know what they say, get busy living or get busy dying. It's not that bad to respawn as Blue Baby. The only thing that sucks is that we could have used our HP a little bit more productively. But honestly, we should be thankful that we got the ability to respawn in the first place. A favor here. HP. That's going to be a Spirit Heart, which is really bad for us, but let's move on. I'm going to mute myself and cough for a second because I don't want to cough into the microphone and make you feel bad. That's the kombucha cough. That's what they tell you. Originating in the jungles of Sumatra. The fermented culture of kombucha. Ooh, I wanna smooch ya in Barbados, Guatemala. Flavor of Valhalla. Sounds like a poison. The flavor of Valhalla. Not quite Milk of the Poppy level. Hey, you know what? You're a Oh, you know what it is? No, this has nothing to do with our stats. But we do have Dim Bulb. And Dim Bulb is actually... It gives us a great excuse to use the D10 on every single room. It's actually a weirdly really good stat increase. Now, but lest ye think that, like... Oh no, that's a terrible place for you to be. Lest ye think that the D10 is actually good now. Take a look at the enemies we fought there and, you know, think twice about it. However, it's really good as an opportunity for us to enable Dim Bulb, which apparently is working out incredibly for us. So, weirdly enough, this is a very, very nice situation for us. Now, what's my favorite expression lately? The juice ain't worth the squeeze, right? Mostly, the juice will be worth the squeeze. On this room, we probably should have just shot every poop once. Life goes on. Dude, I'll take a quarter. I think a quarter is probably slightly worse than takeable. All I mean by that is, I think with a reroll machine, you'd probably rather reroll it. But the fact that we have, you know, enough money to maybe sneak 2 items from our shop has me thinking that it might be worth the, well, it might be worth a squeeze. You know what else is worth a squeeze? This kombucha. Okay. Ooh, okay, hear me out here. Credit card. Steal some deal with the angel items, or deal with the devil items, and still preserve your odds of a deal with the angel in the future. And your HP, which actually at the present moment is kind of a sore spot. Good. Totally fine. That item is garbage. Dim Bulb is incredible. Oh, no question on earth we're going to use it. And we're going to stick with the D10. Why on earth would you... I guess there's no reason not to take it, but... so we're taking a free Brimstone. You know why? Because on the last run I took 45,000 one makes you larger pills, so I feel like we're justified. I don't think we need anything there. I think we're just good to go, honestly. I'm going to save my keys. I'm happy to have them. I'm happy to move along here. Sure, second secret room probably in the cards for us. This is the rare Brimstone one. Brimstone run? That's not one. Let me rephrase that because it got a little confusing there. This is the rare Brimstone run. That's not necessarily one. Great. I love using the D10 and re-rolling all these enemies into enemies that explode. It's a huge positive for me. I love it. No, I'm being serious with you. I love it. It's like a really good thing, I think. I think it's a really positive thing. The reason it's not a one run, and I mean it's like abundantly clear, is because our HP, quite frankly, sucks. And that's the rub of playing as Blue Baby. Like, say what you will about Blue Baby. One of the more, apparently I got an Irish accent temporarily there. One of the more transformative characters to play as because you're never really, like, out of the woods when it comes to HP. You're gonna say some things, like as you watch this run, you're gonna say some stuff like, hey, do you really need to... Tomo, you wanna come in, buddy? You could just paw on the door. You don't need to meow like a peasant. Just knock on the door. I'll open it for you. There's no Tomo in here, but now there is. Two's company too. See, this is like... Oh my god. So like the D10... is a necessity, I feel, in order to give me the damage I need to successfully surmount these rooms. At the same time, we're re-rolling good enemies into enemies who are not so good. In fact, I would call them trash enemies. They're enemies who are trash. Okay, you gotta go. I've been playing like garbage today. I think this is gonna be like the lamest excuse ever. It's not an excuse. Like, again, I always say this, and people think I'm joking, but I'm being for real with you. I always make fun of myself here, you know? I don't need excuses for a game like this. I've played enough of this. You've seen me do amazing things. You've seen me do terrible things. And more of those will probably show up as time goes on. I literally was looking at it like, how do we stop? How do we not get hit there? And I couldn't come up with a solution. N2XV, W9Z7. Well, if you lose one, you gotta lose multiple, but so that's the rule of two. Anyway, Kombucha Cough just got back from Java, the island of Saipan in the South Pacific. Anyway, that's why it wasn't a one run. So, in many ways, even though I died like an idiot, I was also correct. And that's how I structure my my Isaac episode, so I can never truly be wrong. Kombucha is one of those things I gotta admit, you know, when I was, well, I don't necessarily buy, by the way, that it's a good thing to consume. I don't think it's bad for you necessarily, of course, but, you know, when you Google, like, what's the benefit of riboflavin? You get an article that's like, riboflavin binds to the, you know, endoplasmic reticulum in your cells and makes the energy transfer more efficient. You know, I mean, I made that up, but, you know, like, oh, wow. An article from, like, you know, a website that's real. When you Google, like, is kombucha good for you? It's always like, Eco Tree Health. And I'm like, hey, maybe you're reputable, but Jasmine is a blogger in the blah blah neighborhood. And I'm like, I want to hear it from a nutritionist. Not a blogger who blogs about nutrition. I want to hear it from a nutritionist who happens to blog. That works for me. I'll take that. Even, you know, the nutritionist could be wrong, no question about it, but I want to hear it from a reputable source. But, you know, as I've gotten older, I've gotten way more easygoing about stuff like that. You know, if you buy kombucha and you think that it helps your gut and you feel better as a result of it, by all means. Same, oh my god, this damage should not be taken there, but so I always talk about it the same as like gluten-free. You know, I think the vast majority of people who eat gluten-free probably receive almost no medical benefit, or literally no medical benefit, but if they get a psychological benefit, by all means, and as long as they're not, like, making other people's lives miserable. And it doesn't count, okay? If you're like, well, they're making my life miserable because I have to hear them ask the waiter if they have gluten-free tortillas, that doesn't count, okay? That's a relatively reasonable question, even though it's the exact kind of thing that I would make fun of on the NLSS, alright? So for the most part, I'm like, live and let live. If they were like, hey, you can't eat gluten around me, I'd be like, alright, well, honestly, like, your genes are your own kind of responsibility at this point. If you're allergic to peanuts, and you'll go into, like, cardiac arrest if anybody's eating peanuts in the vicinity, please politely let me know. I will stop eating peanuts. I'll eat, like, a potato chip or something. That's fine. But the gluten, I don't buy it. Take me down to the next floor, please. But if it makes you feel better and you're not inconveniencing anybody else, so be it, you know? I don't know. I'm willing to give the kombucha a shot. So, like, I genuinely think that, like, here's my philosophy on why products like that, or, like, industries like the armchair health industry can take off, is because when you get older, you start to feel worse. I'm being honest with you. Like, when I was 17, I thought, like, I'm gonna feel like this for the rest of my life. I don't feel bad. On a daily basis, I still feel really good. But there's just things where I'm like, well, when I was younger, like, doing that one day of yard work, I wouldn't have to come eat like an 1,100 calorie meal to feel normal the next day, you know? Just be like, yeah, that's gym class. And I think that the gluten-free kombucha, probiotic yogurt, prebiotic go-gurt, you know, all that stuff. I think it's like adults like me are like, there must be like one magic bullet, right? The 17 juice that makes me feel physically like I did when I was 17. Is this the 17 juice? I don't know. I don't think it exists in actuality, but If it makes the farts less stinky, I'm willing to give it a shot, okay? I was hoping one of those was a troll bomb or something. Ugh! Let's take it. It's a very good summary of the last couple runs. Actually, the run is fine. Especially because we have the D4. I'm just... If you're like, where's the Zane? Turn down the same, turn up the Zane. Well, we're getting there, alright? But you need to have items to reroll. Otherwise, you're just playing with a fidget spinner, you know? I want a fidget spinner with consequence. It's a pin and I'm dying slowly. Dude, I can't fight Pin. When I shoot at him, he flies around. Here's what you do. You reroll. That way, you can beat this guy and still get your guaranteed deal with the devil. Yo, Headless, baby. You're like the MVP here. I didn't realize. Perks. I mean, it doesn't really matter if we take that. Oh, you mean you gotta take Ma, the Void. Hey, Ma, the Void. Did you leave the Void open again? This joke's going nowhere. Okay, grab that. Good stuff. Don't forget about the D20, probably for the next floor. And move along here. Enjoy your little Ma, the Void action. Mentally, when I was 17, I was sharp for a high school student. I don't mean this to be insulting to those of you presently in the high school experience right now. I'm just saying, I had my head screwed on relatively straight, wasn't doing too much dumb stuff. But when I look back, I'm like, yeah, it wasn't. Mentally, I feel sharp like most of the time these days. I'm like, sometimes, this is embarrassing but true. I have to watch parts of the NLSS to figure out like when to clip it properly or relatively properly. Because no matter, everyone, there's conspiracy theories. Why does NL suck so bad at clipping the NLSS when he exports it to YouTube? You tell Twitch, hey, clip it at 3 minutes, 12 seconds, and then, through to the duration. It just lies. When it actually clips it at like 3:17, and they go, why'd you have it start in mid-sentence? And I'm like, I didn't. I deliberately tried to get it to start. And I know you got all the answers right now. You're saying, hey, just put that down there for a second. Hey, put that down there for a second. Why don't you just figure out how long the delay is? And the answer is I haven't thought about that. It's an extremely valid point. That I've tricked you into thinking you came up with it when I just did it right now. Okay, so now we're on the same page. But sometimes when I go back and I watch, the first, 2 minutes of an NLSS, I'm like, I'm on. I know. There's some days I finish the show and people go, hey, thanks for the great show. It was really fun. And I'm like, you caught it on sort of like a 5 out of 10 day. There's some days I finish the show and I was like, we killed it. Laugh at my own jokes sometimes. I feel like when I was 17, if I ever heard my voice, I would just cringe the whole time. I don't know if that's my cringe endurance has gone way up, or if it's maybe I'm just that much more fantastically entertaining in today's day and age. There's no cringe necessary, Most of my cringe on camera is at least deliberate. That's what I'm saying there. Dude, Ma the Void is so clutch right now. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna hope for a deal with the devil. We're going to re-roll the cube of meat regardless, because we want to get a full run re-roll, even though this is looking great. So we wanted to see what we got here. God, I hate fighting Krampus on a tiny room. Okay, so you're getting re-rolled instead. Got a guppy item, exquisite. Why do I love this? Because it is static and doesn't get re-rolled the more we re-roll our own run. So I'm extremely happy about it. So yeah, I like to think that my life is a slider. You should get better as you get older. I hope, at least. That's why when, people are like, aren't you worried about getting old? I'm like, yeah, don't put a key there, you fool. I'm worried about being, old enough that things are, medically scary. I know tragedy can strike at any time. But when it comes to ooh, aren't you... This is the year I turned 30, and I'm being straight up with you. I'm 0% anxious about it at all. You can't win when you say stuff like that, because people go, well, if you were anxious, that's exactly what you would have said to begin with. That's not the case. First off, I don't feel like 30's that old. Secondly, you ever hear of something called wine? Get better with age? I'm doing my best. Hanged man. I'm gonna dump this. Buy this, dump it. I'm just trying to get to another actual reroll as soon as possible. This is okay. we'll get the heck out of town. And the other thing is, like, I'm like, 30 is still young enough. 40, I wouldn't say I'm anxious for 40, necessarily. First off, it's a decent chunk of time away. Not a good use of my investment there. Secondarily, you know, it's still relatively young. But the reason I start to get anxious about turning 40, which some of you out there might be over or on the precipice of, is medical reasons. Like, when I go to my doctor now, they don't want me there. They, like, basically tell me to go home. Once a year I go into my doctor's office and she goes, "How you doing?" And I go, "I got this, like, thing on my neck. Could you check it out?" And she's, like, mad. She's like, "If you feel fine, why are you even here? You know, we don't even check men of your age, okay? Until, like, if you have a problem, come in. But apart from that, like, I'm just gonna keep..." Okay, I'm like, putting words in her mouth and making it sound like she's disrespecting her own Hippocratic oath. Like, she does the bare minimum level of due diligence. And I like that. I like a doctor that is like a drill sergeant, actually, as weird as that sounds. Because I believe that if there was something wrong, for real, she'd be on top of it. I don't know if I've ever told this story in this capacity. Here's some deep lore for you. Oh, try this. No D4, dude. It does not exist. A couple of years ago, I never got it diagnosed for real, but I was running, and I had become like what I would consider a relatively competent runner over the course of like 6 or 7 months. Like, I was going regularly at a slow pace, doing like 10K, 12K runs a couple times, well, like a few times a week. And then, you know, caught my leg in a weird way on some sand while doing it. We're gonna re-roll our whole run anyway, so this doesn't bother me too much. My knee was messed up, and I hobbled home. It was like 2 or 3 kilometers, nearly in tears. Well, let's try to get a D6, please. Oh, let's go. Well, D4 is fine as well, but like, okay, I mean, the D20 is cool, but, and it, you know, I was out of commission on, like, from putting weight on my leg for like maybe a week, and then like it still aches when it rains, and it was messed up, but I never went to the doctor for it because I was like, I got Isaac episodes to record, like an idiot, even though healthcare is free here. Like, I might have had to wait in the waiting room for like, you know, 10 minutes, so I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I tore my meniscus. And then like 3 months later, I went to my doctor's office, and she's like, well, you know, you should probably lose like maybe 10 pounds. Like, do you exercise? And I was like, well, I used to run like a lot, like, you know, like 7 or 8 hours a week, and then I tore my meniscus, I think, and she cut me off and was like, so like, there's no reason you're not exercising right now. And I was like, well, did you hear the meniscus part? Because like, I don't know if you've ever torn it, but it was the most pain I've ever felt in my life, and you know, still like to this day, it still catches me sometime when the weather's off. But I like that because she was like, you know, she didn't give me any rope, and as a result, I was like, ah, fine, I'll go exacerbate my injury. You know, I need that kind of drill sergeantry in my life to some extent. Ooh, I don't know what our HP's like. Not good enough to go for that, I guess. Anyway, when you turn, I feel like even at 30, maybe, because when, you know, the last time I went out, I was probably like 27 now that I think about it. But I feel fine, so I don't want to go back. Maybe 28. Anyway, what am I talking about? Oh, once you turn 30, all those tests they tell you, like, you're supposed to get at X age, they start to come true, right? Like, that's when you start to get those. And I'm okay with it. Like, I don't mind getting the test. I'm just more like, oh, that's where the stats go up. That's where you start to worry, I guess, that, like, every ache and pain is something more serious. Or even if it's not something more serious, you're like, maybe that's never going to feel right ever again. Maybe we should hold off on some rerolls. We went a couple floors without them, but... Oh, this run sucks. Let's do that. Get a little better here. That seems good. Good-ish, at least. Wow, you're a extremely useful helper here. Angry Fly, thank you so much. So yeah, you know, I thought it was like... I don't think my generation's gonna have a problem with this. This is always like, you know, on Everybody Loves Raymond. Raymond would be like, yeah, bro, I don't want to go to the doctor. He's gonna put his finger up my butt. Raymond, would you rather, you know, not know that you had a terrible disease? Oh, what disease could be worse than this? You know, I don't think our generation is gonna have a problem with that. I'm like, dude, Put 2 fingers up there if it makes it, you know, twice as likely to find something if something's there, you know? I got no problem with that. Hook me up. I want the test. What I don't want is what's attached to the test, which is like, we're giving you this test because there's like, you're not rolling like a D6, but there's like there's a chance. That's the thing that is like, you know, I'm not worried about the superficial stuff of aging at all. The real stuff. That's what and now I'm picturing like that Shaq meme where he's asleep and then it's like, you know, wrinkles on your forehead. I sleep. Increased risk of debilitating diseases and disorders. Real stuff, only it didn't say stuff, if you know what I mean. You can make that meme. That's a meme you could post to like our middle age. Did you see the delectable meme on our middle age? Yeah, let's take it, dude. Isaac's heart. Now, what we need on top of Isaac's heart is never getting the D12 to turn into anything else. Oh, good, we got some kind of exploding tier as well. That's a really nice addition to the... We do have Polyphemus, so like the run is not bad from an attributional standpoint, but hey, it wouldn't... There we go, there's our reroll. But yeah, I think that's a slider, you know. You get older, you get less physically... I think you feel worse physically most of the time. Not to make it like the most negative thing. Like here's what I'm realizing, and I think this is what's gonna happen. Is when if you had asked me like how I feel physically at the age of 17, I would have been like, I don't know, like a 7. Nah, that was a 10. Basically as good as it gets. If you ask me how I feel now, I'm gonna say, you know, I feel good. I feel like a 7. When I'm 50, I'll probably be like, you idiot, that was a 9. There's a long way to go. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. If you find this conversation depressing, I think, you know, you might want to reevaluate or investigate your relationship with your own age. It's just kind of, it's inevitable, you know. It's a privilege to grow older. It would be sweet, though. I don't know. If you could make yourself one age for like the rest of your life, what age would you make yourself? I feel like I would like if you went to a hypothetical heaven, let's say, and which is a great name for a kombucha brand, by the way, if you're listening, and you're like, okay, well, welcome to heaven. First off, congratulations, you chose wisely. Step 1, you know, here's all the information I need you to fill out, but you don't have to fill out a form. We just know it because it's heaven. And what we do need you to do is tell us, like, what age of yourself would you like to be? Because I feel like if you die at 90 and you're like, I hate myself. Like, not that I hate myself, but like, most people probably aren't going to choose 90, right? I think that's a relatively uncontroversial statement. There's probably one dude out there who's like, I feel better at 90 than I've felt in my whole life. And I'm like, nah, dude, you just forgot. I'm sorry. Like, what you're saying is admirable, and you must have kept yourself in pretty good shape at 90, but like, come on, you know, think back to like 73 years ago. You probably felt better. But I don't want to be a 17-year-old in heaven. You go like, what if you know, you died at 90, and then in heaven, you're like, I want to be 9. I miss the feeling of being a kid. That was the best time of my life. You're gonna be like a 9-year-old in a bar in heaven. I mean, in heaven, I guess we wouldn't be judgmental. We'd be like, hey, let me put it this way. If a real 9-year-old died and he's in heaven and he wants to get a drink, who am I to say he can't be in there? I'm just gonna say, like, you know, I'm not sure that it's gonna look weird. It seems like the kind of thing you'd want to, like, you know, collude on with your spouse. You don't want to, like, go through this weird exchange and then you know, she chooses to be 12 and you choose to be 50, and then for the rest of your eternity in heaven together, everyone's looking at you weird. You're like, we died in a car accident when we were both 60. It's heaven. Why are you judging me? You know? It's a weird situation to think. Because in movies, they always show it like, you know, whatever age you were when you die, that's the age you are in heaven. That's pretty messed up, man. I think you have to choose. It's the only way it makes any sense, right? Like, otherwise, like, you're gonna tell me, like, you die as an infant? You're gonna be an infant in heaven for the rest of your life, just crapping your pants? Or is there no pants crapping in heaven? By the way, don't misconstrue this as like I'm trying to poke holes in religion or something like that. I'm just trying to bring up a logistical question from the administration standpoint of heaven. From like a completely non-theistic, oh, we have backpack, okay. Viewpoint here. I'm just asking questions about the administrative capabilities of heaven because it's interesting, you know? And another one, like, what if, okay, I think this is from maybe even like a David Cross comedy special, but what if, you know, like, you die and then, you know, you're 30 or 40 or something like that, and then your wife remarries and you've been waiting in heaven all this time and she comes back with a new husband. Does she have to choose which one to be husbands with in heaven? Do you live polyamorously? Is there no need for that stuff in heaven? Because, like, my heaven might involve, you know, some kind of romantic interaction. I don't consider it like I already postulated that there would be alcohol in heaven by the existence of bars, but, you know, you get the idea. Because my version of heaven is slightly different. I wonder about, I guess, is that part of the, like, the divorce quandary? Is that why, for a while, that was not considered okay? I don't know. I'm asking genuine questions from a position of honesty. I want to add, we got to talk to that 9-year-old. You know, the one who wrote the Heaven is Real book. I'd be like, wait, when you got to heaven, did they make you choose an age from 0 to 9? Or were they like, hey, we can make you 40 because we know? I just don't know, okay? That's all I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. I don't know what age I would choose, by the way, because I think you'd want to choose based on the different situations. Like, if you're going to the opera, you don't want to be 14. And if you're going go-karting, you don't want to be 80. You might not want to be 80 in, like, any circumstance, by the way. I'll let you have that one for free, but hey, die so I can re-roll my run? I'm just waiting for the good stuff right now. Get out of here. Again, I'm sure it's gonna sound ridiculous, but I'm not entirely convinced this question hasn't already been answered, because there's all sorts of historical precedent, I should say, for stuff like this. You know, like, I make a joke about the Council of Nicaea all the time, but I can't remember what the Council of Nicaea was specifically about, but I think it was like, hey, when we eat, like, for communion, when we drink communion wine, is it the actual blood of Christ, or is it like a representation of the blood of Christ? They debated it hotly for like millennia. The point of like barely being able to speak to people on the other side of the issue. So you're gonna tell me that I'm going too far by saying, can you choose an age when you get to heaven? Or are you just stuck at whatever age you are when you died? Because I'm just, really, if I'm being honest with you, I'm pouring one out for all the literal babies in heaven, or the people who died when they were like 127 years old. Because that's unfair, is just what it is. I'll sign a change.org petition for that. That's unfair. You should get to choose. Well, I better hope there's not one, because even if I live my life as a good person, and I think I've lived a relatively, you know, not saintly necessarily, but I follow the golden rule. I treat people as I would like to be treated. I judge them in public, and then make fun of them behind their backs on the internet to other people, okay? It's a victimless crime. In fact, I'd say it's a net good for society, because, you know, it brings entertainment. At the expense of one person, it entertains hundreds of billions. But they're gonna be like, don't put this guy up here. First off, you don't know. He's a wild card. You don't know what age he's gonna choose. It's gonna cause all sorts of problems. He needs us to install a bar, apparently. It's not like I'm too attached to the idea. I was just saying, that's one example of a situation in which, you know, your age choice could be important. And, you know, he's just gonna be too much of a nuisance. Just like, I mean, I got the same question. Like, hell should be the same, except, like, your worst enemy should choose for you. Dude, this run is also not great, mostly because of our ridiculous rate of fire. Now we're getting into some decent stuff here. Although we do have marked, and marked is horrible. Are we? Can we afford to be choosers? I mean, the damage is pretty strong. So this all spawned from the conversation of like, I don't know what age I'd want to be in heaven. 29 seems pretty good. I think the older you get, the older you skew as well. Like, it wouldn't surprise, my parents are in their early 50s. It wouldn't surprise me if they're like, yeah, 50. 50's like the prime of our life. Maybe, you know, you might be biased. All I'm going to say is that even if I felt physically the best I've ever felt in my life as a late teenager or an early 20-something, I don't think I'd want to... Don't take this the wrong way. Many of you are going to fit into this demographic. But when I see, like, an 18-year-old out in public, I say to myself, like, you're a child. Not like a literal infant, of course. That's offensive and just factually incorrect. But I'm like, what are you doing here buying groceries with the rest of the adults? Like, you're not ready for this level of responsibility yet. More power to you for getting an early start. But I'm like, you know, it's not that you think that they're incapable. It's that you think back to yourself and you go, I was incapable. Or I'm more capable now, at least. Yo, this is the run. Maybe? I don't know what's going on. I wanna be old enough that my presence in public demands a certain level of respect and zero level of pity. I think I've found the axiom. Nobody looks at a 45-year-old in good health, visibly good health at least, and says, oh, hate to be that guy, you know, unless you're 4. And nobody looks at a 45-year-old guy and goes, I'm gonna mess with that punk. It's the right age. I just found it. It's 45. Can't stop the presses. I figured it out. You want to be the right age that you're respected everywhere and pitied nowhere. At least on the... based on the age of your skin. Alright, well that tangent's gone on too long. That's just... we're approaching ridiculousness at this point. Yeah, other funnier people than me have touched on these subjects, but I think it's, you know, there's enough to riff on. It's not really meant to be like a rip-off. It's more just like an exploration. Do you eat in heaven? And if so, do you defecate as well? I'm going to walk you through my line of reasoning. I think you eat in heaven. Maybe it's that, you know, I can only conceive of a heaven by contrasting it with what we have on Earth. So I think, you know, heaven is where you can eat pizza all the time and you never get a pizza gut, you know? But maybe heaven is so good that you don't have to eat. But for me, my version of heaven right now involves, you know, quite a lot of eating. If it involves eating... Are we guppy now? Not quite, I guess. If it involves eating, I would assume... Is it like a dealer's choice sort of situation? If you enjoy defecating, you could have it. If you don't enjoy it, you get rid of it. I'm like 50-50 on defecating. It's one of those things where people sometimes go like, you know, I enjoy it. Like, I would miss it. And I'm like, hey, you probably miss it for like a month. And then after a month, you'd be like, I can't believe we used to spend like, you know, half an hour a week doing that. So my ideal version of heaven, eating, no defecating, no urinating. Sometimes, you know, a urination can feel good, but it only feels good because of the suffering that came before it, you know? And I would trade all of that euphoria for not having to hold it for like 2 hours if I get caught in a traffic jam. Or, you know, pee in a kombucha bottle, telling my wife not to look, you know? While we're hoping WSDOT clears the road in time for us to get home and watch Curb Your Enthusiasm before bed. So for me personally, if we get to vote, if it's a democracy, which there's a whole other can of worms, I suppose. put me in the eating but no defecating camp. However, this raises another question, doesn't it? If you eat but don't defecate, what's the mechanism biologically for that? Maybe we're approaching logical extreme. But are you eating real food, but in heaven your bodies just use 100% of it and produce no waste? Or are you eating a simulation of real food, in which case, doesn't that raise all sorts of weird metaphysical sort of questions? You know, what's the true nature of reality? Maybe we'd be better off just living in a simulation. Could you make a simulation better than heaven if nothing in heaven is real anyway? What is real on earth, you know? It's just, you know, well, maybe we're better off without the whole food thing. It just raises a lot of uncomfortable questions. I had another, this is a genuine question. These are just things, I would love to hear impact on these, specifically if they've been tackled biblically. I wish I didn't have to make this clear, but I'm going to say it anyway. Genuinely, this is not like, haha, I'm a nameless English comedian wearing a black t-shirt. Isn't heaven ridiculous? And it's not like that. I'm asking questions, okay? I'm genuinely, like, has anyone ever thought of these before? And is there an answer that's accepted within the literature? What if there's a situation where, like, you know, your best friend, let's say someone that, okay, here's a great example. You ever see the movie The Cable Guy, starring Jim Carrey? Excuse me, I don't want this item. If both Jim Carrey and Matthew Broderick had died during The Cable Guy as their characters, Jim Carrey's version of heaven would be him and Matthew Broderick playing basketball all the time. But Matthew Broderick did not like Jim Carrey in that movie. You see? So here's what I'm getting at. What if, like, you die and then in heaven somebody's like, I've been waiting for you for so long. And then here you are and you're like, I didn't really like you. How does that situation work out? I always think, you know, in heaven, in movies, they're always like, oh my God, it's Marilyn Monroe. And then she says, like, hello, nice to see you. I'm like, man, that sounds like an exhausting life. Like, if you're a celebrity of any kind in heaven, you must never, like, people are dying and want to meet Marilyn Monroe all the time. That's like a full-time job in heaven. So Marilyn Monroe's version of heaven is constantly meeting new people born like 30 years after she was dead in the first place. Wow, count me in. That sounds like fun. I'm not saying I would be in Marilyn Monroe's camp. You know, I might have a couple dozen people over the course of my existence in heaven that show up and say, hey, I loved Isaac episode 352. And I'd be like, thanks a lot. Why do you look like a 9-year-old? You're never going to get into the best bar in heaven looking like that. But you are going to be popular at the go-kart track. It just seems like, you know, you get a kind of a raw deal if you're a celebrity in heaven. You're like Sean Astin at Comic-Con. You never get a moment of peace and quiet. What was Frodo like in reality? Just all sorts of questions. And I think the real answer is probably something like, you know, it's so excellent and it's so much like paradise beyond human comprehension that you can't even understand what it would be like. And that's fair. You know, I'm basing this off media interpretations of what heaven would be like. So I really got to read that book from that 9-year-old, right? That his heart stopped and he went to heaven, and then one of them admitted that it was made up. But there's one that's real as far as we know still. I think it was the one they made the movie about. I gotta ask him. I got a lot of questions for him. Ooh, money equals power is actually good. And that's gonna be the bit for this episode, apparently. Administrative question. Like, I feel like heaven would have a great FAQ website. You know? You'd be like, how does time pass in heaven? Does it pass at the same pace that time passes? So, like, if I mean, I guess if you're there for eternity, it doesn't matter as much, but you know, what if I die like 50 years before my wife? I gotta wait almost 2 times the span of my current life? Can I just, you got like a cryo chamber or something I can get in? Like, I got all sorts of questions. This is why I'm not back allowed in any church in the Tri-Cities here. I need to, like, be friends with a pastor. I think I'd be the kind of guy who would be good at being friends with a pastor. You know, I'm a non-believer, but I'm non-judgmental about it. And I got all sorts of questions about the Christian faith. About all sorts of faiths, really. That's just the one that's, I guess, like, you know, closest to home. Because they kind of, you know, you're getting up there. I understand because I do Isaac episodes all the time. You're getting up there, you're teaching a lesson every Sunday to a room full of people, you know? People have got to have dealt with these questions before. I'm even I almost want to Google it, and I know this sounds like a ridiculous statement, but I think it might have been answered. What age are you in heaven? What age will I appear in heaven? Okay, here we go. We know the human body changes radically from conception to age 90. So at what stage in bodily progression will our resurrected bodies appear? Just give me one sec here. Will there be a range of age appearances? Will everyone appear in the age we died, like Jesus? Or will everyone appear to be 25-year-olds in the prime of their life? This is another one of those areas where we have to speculate. Oh, okay. Color me surprised. You don't have the demographic data from heaven? This is, we don't have the direct biblical teaching on this, but we do have the direct biblical teaching on having real, actual human bodies as created God, not subject to sin and death and suffering. We have the continuity of appearance that we would assume that as Jesus looked like the Jesus that he was, we will look like the people that we were. You will look like Tony, I will look like Randy. Okay. But I think in terms of the challenge of when an elderly person dies, will that person look elderly? We would assume not, because there is a peak of physical vitality in this life, and whatever this age is, I know I am past it. See, I gotta have coffee with this guy. He's got a sense of humor. But maybe it was the 20s, I don't know. But, so we still have the benefits of having many good things about us that we develop more with age, but physically there is a passing of a peak. And this is why historically many theologians speculated that it was perhaps the age of Jesus when he died. Oh, okay, I understand. So the idea is that Jesus apparently is not 33 in heaven because he died when he was 33, but rather because 33 is the optimal age. Well, I'm going to tend to agree with that just because it's on, it's still in the headlights for me. It's not in the rear view mirror yet. So, I'm starting to think this Thomas Aquinas guy, he had a good head on his shoulders. Fair enough. So the answer was really that there is no answer. Okay, so there's been no biblical teaching for it. That's okay. There's plenty of time to figure it out. I got 4 years to figure it out. But I don't even want it. I feel like, what age will you be in heaven? You're going to get some good results on Google. Do you poop in heaven? Is there food in heaven? That's where you'd start to get into the, I don't know. You know what? Is there food in heaven? Will we eat food in heaven? The text does not say whether we will eat the fruit of the tree of life, but it is certainly possible. If we will be eating in heaven, we don't know for sure what the heavenly menu will contain. Why do all these articles have a statement like that to anybody with a rational brain is self-evident? Oh, you haven't looked at heaven's menu? I know. I'm trying my best to take this conversation seriously, but I'm just gonna level with you. If you tried to get one past me, like, oh, there's gonna be chicken Kiev in heaven, I would be reading the article, being like, come on. Everyone knows it'd be chicken cordon bleu. You don't have to say things like that. I understand where you're coming from. You're doing the best with. I'm not belittling your opinion. You're doing the best you have with the limited amount of information, okay? And then these esoteric questions, if they were written about in the Bible, it would have been 8 million pages long. So I'm not even trying to say like, oh, they got you this time, they didn't think of that. I'm just looking for answers, but every time I ask for an answer, you gotta be like, we don't actually know if there's toilets in heaven. And I'm like, I know, but what do you think? What's your hypothesis, Pastor? Just give me it. It's like being, in middle school, English class. You don't have to be right in your essay. Just give me good reasons and I'll give you like at least a B. I don't know, man. I'm literally fresh out on this whole thing. My brain is being racked right now with so many questions that apparently have no answer in the biblical text, though. Who would have thought? Oh, you mean to tell me that, you know, there's no television in heaven? How can you not? There's no TV guide? Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.